Well, welcome here once again in Reflections with the Course in Miracles, and I apologize for, well, it isn't really on a different time than it's supposed to be, but I was just completely gone. I was just sitting quietly and was gone, and out of a sudden I got somehow the message in my mind to look on the clock and see that I'm already supposed to, as I normally would, start out at 12 Central Time. Well, thank you for being here, and I'll see where we're gonna here continue with that part, the last part that was considered the chapter 3. And of course, we are looking at how Jesus was giving that message to Helen Schackman and Bill Tedford in the original version. And there is the talk of where we left it and where we will continue, where he goes into the perspective of the meaning of the fall and separation. And so we will come to what we know from the Bible as eating from the tree of knowledge. And of course, it is here open for interpretation or for different interpretations. But what I do like also is that we are shown that how the pictures in the Bible are used can really be understood in a completely new light in our own personal experience. And if we're going to start here with the lesson of the day, then we also know that that lesson 189, I feel the love of God within me now, that is also, you could say unmistakably given in certain expressions when he's talking about to forgetting everything, forgetting this world, forgetting this course, coming with wholly empty hands to our Creator. But it all directs us to that experience of knowing within ourselves of what he speaks in the beginning of the Bible, of that eating of the tree of knowledge is really, you could say, going back and remembering that mind is awake and there is nothing less than mind awake. And so in that memory of remembering who I am, who we are, of course, there is the recognition of a light in our mind that is not of this world, a light that is not part of the perceptual realm that can be used in order to share judgment. But there is also, in that lesson 189, given us the clear choice of what thought system we start out to use or start out to to think and use for our thinking, and therefore our experience will be, as we always make emphasis, as it is also then in tomorrow's lesson 190, I choose the joy of God instead of pain. Here, already in the title, is the choice very obvious. But in the perspective, I feel the love of God within me now. We look at, and I'm going to start out here by just reviewing a few sentences to make that clear how he brings that about and offers it to us. So I'm just using here in the beginning of the lesson that a world in which forgiveness shines on everything and peace offers its gentle light to everyone is inconceivable to those who see a world of hatred rising from attack, poised to avenge, to murder and destroy. So such a world of seeing with his mind, the creative light, and seeing that eventually doesn't see anything else than that, right? Where awakening is opening up and revealing the mind is clearly that there's only reality, that there's only creative light and nothing else. So that is seeing a world in which forgiveness shines on everything. And yet, in the world of hatred, equally unseen and inconceivable to those who feel God's love in them, yet is the world of hatred equally unseen. So if we are opening up to that pure knowledge, to know thyself, to know who we are, we feel God's love in our heart, in our mind, in our soul. It's actually equally unseen and inconceivable to see a world of hatred. So every time there's any evidence of hatred in the world being seen, that's a very valuable sentence to remember, that this is actually inconceivable. Their world reflects the quietness and peace that shines in them, the gentleness and innocence they see surrounding them, the joy with which they look out from the endless wells of joy within. What they have felt in them, they look upon and see its sure reflection. And here's the word: everywhere, everywhere. Everywhere includes also ourselves, right? And in everyone, including myself. What would you see? The choice is given you. But learn and do not let your mind forget this law of seeing. He calls it a law of seeing. You will look upon that which you feel within. You look upon that which you hold real within your own mind. That is what you look upon. If hatred finds a place within your heart, you will perceive a fearful world held cruelly in death's sharp, pointed, bony fingers. If you feel the love of God within you, you will look out on a world of mercy and of love. And that is really the entire Course in Miracles. Once this is brought into clear experience, moment by moment, every relationship, when there's no reaction anymore needed to magical thoughts, with upset, with anger, with any of this, as we shared it the last time, then we will only look on a world of mercy and of love. And then I call it already since the beginning that I came to this course, like more than 20 years ago, 25 years ago, 30 years ago. It is, I call it a prayer, like what Jesus tells us: simply do this. can be and should be translated as a communication between ourselves and his mind. And if we divide up that paragraph that starts out simply to this: be still and lay aside all thoughts of what you are and what God is, that is in that direction of the mind to the Creator. They're asking for help. That is the willingness to receive his strength, because it would be, let me be still, help me that I can lay aside all meaningless thoughts, all thoughts in which the dream still gives a reflection of a hateful world, or a world that doesn't make sense, and so on and so forth. But to lay aside all thoughts of what I am and what God is, that is really what every message of awakened mind, of Christ mind, offers me, is offering us, each and every one. And he continues by saying, all concepts that you have learned about the world, everything, every meaning that has been taken on and thought of in limitation of something particular, of something special, of something in relationship with any experience of the past, anything that you have learned about the world, all images you hold about yourself, because that what the self-concept, how the self-concept is held up or is still believed in, is really an image of myself within my own mind. And that image is based on separation from source, has its base in an idea of a reality of being in a body or being part of a world. And none of this is true. We are eternally creative because we are created by God himself and feel his love within ourselves that brings us certainty who we are. Thank you. Thank you. And he continues then with the next action of mind, where we again can direct our mind as we have directed him. Let me be still. Help me, give me your strength that I can lay aside my thoughts. And that would be also to asking for his power and his strength. Empty your mind of everything. With your love, Father, it's very easy to empty my mind of everything that I think, of everything it thinks is either true or false, or good or bad, or every thought it judges worthy, and all the ideas of which it is ashamed. Like really the entire human conceptual mind. To empty our mind of all these self-concepts. And here's the next action. Hold unto nothing. Stay completely open-minded. Let everything go every instant. That is holding unto nothing, remembering that the world I see holds nothing that I want. It doesn't offer any value whatsoever. Do not bring with you one thought the past has taught, nor one belief you ever learned before from anything. And here comes the force action that is literally that action of mind that allows the world to disappear, to let go of a connection to the past, to let go of a conceptual memorization. Forget, forgetting. Forgetting is forgiving, is letting go. Forget this world, forget this cause, come with holy empty hands unto your God. Your path is simply to allow all obstacles that you have interposed between the Son of God, the Father, and God the Father to be quietly removed forever. To be quietly removed forever. And I think this lesson is full, it keeps on going, and it is just one of the most extraordinary lessons of this workbook of A Course in Miracles. But it also bridges very easily to what we have come to know now in the urtext version in these first chapters, and have come to know it as a personal guidance and directive that Jesus is giving us. And in that complete and annotated version, where there are just some minor changes, when it became maybe too obvious that Jesus is talking personally to Helen and or to Bill, then it has been edited to the you, to the me, to take that he is really talking to me. He's talking to you. And so in this last section, that is the 11th section of chapter 3 of this complete and annotated edition, it got the title The Unshakable Foundation. And if I'm taking here the edited version of the Foundations edition, then I'm at the end of chapter 3 in section 7, creating versus the self-image. And it is I will read from the complete and annotated version, and let's just give us a moment here in really allowing to immerse in that immense power of guidance that is offered us here. So he says, it is essential that this whole authority problem of which we were speaking last time, be voluntarily dismissed once and for all. You do not understand how important this is for your sanity. You are quite insane on this point. This is not a judgment. It is merely a fact. So it is just as much a fact as God is. A fact is literally a making or a starting point. You do start from this point, and all your thinking is inverted because of it. So we see here that what is heard as a judgment needs to be also clarified. If the voice of God speaks about a fact, or if it is really coming from a comparison of perception and put on the perceptual level to point out what is sinful or off the mark, or what is supposed to be believed or followed, or is called true. Né? So when Jesus here gives the example and saying you are quite insane on this point, yeah, of the authority problem, he calls it's merely a fact. It's not a judgment. You do start from this point, and all your thinking is inverted because of it. Every system of thought must have a starting point. Every system of thought. It begins with either a making or a creating, a difference which we have already covered. Both are acts of will, except that making involves doing and creating involves active willing. So also here we made already that emphasis. We hear it again, that where he crystallizes this active willing, because willpower is much more than just to have a little desire and I want this next to some other ideas within the transformation. Creating involves active willing. It involves our extension of the will of God as our will. Their resemblance lies in their power as foundations. Their difference lies in what rests upon them. Both are cornerstones for systems of belief by which men live. So here we have it. Here's our choice. Is it the choice for the system of thinking and aligning with the Holy Spirit, or is it still within the ego thought system where there are two realities, where there is a right and wrong, where there are literally two worlds that in truth do not and cannot meet? It is a mistake to believe that a thought system which is based on lies is weak. Nothing made by a child of God is without power. That is good to remember, isn't it? Because we are using the power of light in our mind even to hold up or make up illusions. It is absolutely essential that you realize this, because otherwise you will not understand why you have so much trouble with this course and will be unable to escape from the prisons you have created for yourselves. Very clear words, isn't it? You have both made the error of the psychotherapist. So he speaks here once again to both of them, or you can just take it personally. He's speaking to me. Yeah? You have made the error of the psychotherapist we described. I'm looking here how it is, and we described in some detail before. Yet you cannot resolve the authority problem by depreciating the power of your mind. It can hurt you if you misuse it, because you know its strengths, and you also know that you cannot weaken it any more than you can weaken God. Very, very nice. And now he goes to the idea of how the established religions have divided it. Here's our God, and here is the opposite, the devil, the Antichrist. The devil is a frightening concept only, he says, because he's thought of as extremely powerful and extremely active. He is perceived as a force in combat with God. battling him for possession of souls. He deceives by lies and builds kingdoms of his own in which everything is in direct opposition to God. Always, that is what you can look at. You can look at every thought system and see if is this in opposition to what is truly singular, one, and has no opposite. Yet he attracts men rather than repels them, and they are perceived as willing to sell him their souls in return for gifts they know are of no real worth at all. And there it is. That is an inventory in the mind, in looking in, okay, where are my values? What is it I'm holding dear? Where's my investment energetically in how I think, how I feel, what I share, what I choose as my experience? And that is basically selling the soul to the devil, as we had it already in the literature. And in the story of Mephisto, that he offers to sell literally your soul, and then he's basically giving you the power and helping you. I mean, it's really one of the oldest concepts in the human mind since the separation. This makes absolutely no sense. The whole picture is one in which man acts in a way he himself realizes is self-destructive, but which he does not will to correct, and therefore perceives the cause as beyond his control. We have discussed the fall or separation before. So this is what the theme, what it is about, the fall or separation. But its meaning must be clearly understood without symbols. The separation is not symbolic. It is an order of reality or a system of thought that is perfectly real in time, though not in eternity. All beliefs are real to the believer. All beliefs. We can just emphasize that over and over and over again. And obviously, the reason why Jesus repeats it over and over again is because I need that reminder. You need that reminder. All beliefs. It is my job to investigate and sort out and see, is there a belief system? Is that belief system based on this concept of the self, on separation? But all beliefs are real to the believer. The fruit of only one tree. Now we are talking about that tree of knowledge. The fruit of only one tree was forbidden to man in his symbolic garden, but God could not have forbidden it, or it could not have been eaten. If God knows his children, and I assure you he does, would he have put them in a position where their own destruction was possible? Well, you see, this is then where it sorts itself out. Is there, for me, acceptable a God that is literally killing his own beloved son? Or do I see that a thought system came in that is literally completely unreasonable? A beloved father will not be in a position of destroying his beloved son nor his creations. The tree here in the quote, which was forbidden, was correctly named tree of knowledge. Yet God created knowledge and gave it freely to his creations. The symbolism here is open to many interpretations, but you may be sure that any interpretation which perceives either God or his creations as if they were capable of destroying their own purpose is wrong. And see, that is when you look like at I'm looking at consciousnesses that have taken on, like as an expression, extremism, what we call terrorist actions. And when they make the statements that this is in the name of God or in the name of truth, their actions of destruction, then this is obviously where the mistake is occurring in the mind, where the error isn't seen and isn't given and handed over to the correction, to the healing. It stays then in an interpretation which perceives either God or his creation as if they were capable of destroying their own purpose capitalized. And that purpose would be, of course, the purpose of coming home and the purpose of remembering who we are, the purpose of fulfilling the journey, the purpose of realizing that there is no love but God's, and that there is only one single reality that we call God. But that remembrance, that action of awakening, as what I call here true purpose, cannot be measured or compared or seen really in how the mind might try to save this world, make it a better world. It is really brought into awareness within our own thought system on the level of thought. Eating of the tree of knowledge is a symbolic expression for incorporating into the self the ability for self-creation. Yeah. So we continue here about, as what he mentioned, the tree which was forbidden to eat the fruit was correctly named the tree of knowledge. If you're talking here about a symbolic expression for incorporating into the self the ability for self-creation. This is the only sense in which God and his souls are not co-creators. The belief that they are is implicit in the self-concept, a concept now made acceptable by its weakness and explained by a tendency of the self to create an image of itself. This is the expression, or how he expresses now, how the human split mind from the moment of thinking itself separate from the mind of God has made up a word, himself, herself. That is what I made, right? By a tendency of the self to create an image of itself. Its fear aspect is usually ascribed to the father figure, a particularly interesting idea in view of the fact that nobody means the physical father by the term. It refers to an image of a father in relation to an image of the self. And so that is really where we stranded then in a world of different authorities, of different a division of power, and then having the categories in which those powers were connected and identified with, and so here's then the father figure within a family, and is then the father figure within a family and is considered as very powerful or more powerful, an image of the Father in relation to an image of the self. Once again, images are perceived, not known. So whatever we perceive of each other, and if we leave it on that level of perception and what it means, and if it is right or wrong, good or bad, is really this, you could say, this projection where a limited power is still acknowledged or is seen as any value. The moment the realization of all power, of all creative power, what the Father in heaven, the capitalized Father, has its name, God, yeah, this comparison is no longer intact. These categorizations don't work anymore. The mind opens up to a new freedom. Through that new freedom and experiencing that new freedom, of course, everything that is seen as part of the world on the perceptual level is seen with a new eye, with that inner eye. Is literally looked through in order to recognize seeing that light and that love beyond it. Knowledge cannot deceive. So once again, images are perceived, not known. Knowledge cannot deceive, but perception can. Man can perceive himself as self-creating, but he cannot do more than believe it. It's still just a belief system. He cannot make it true. I told you before that when you finally perceive correctly, you can only be glad you can't, that you can't perceive in based on the self-concept. You can't, you cannot make it true. You cannot think that it has anything to do with the truth. But until then, the belief that you can is the central foundation stone in your thought system. And all your defenses are used to attack ideas which would bring it to light. You still believe you are an image of your own creation. You're split with your own soul on this point, and there's no resolution because you believe the one thing that is literally inconceivable. That is why you cannot create and are afraid to make or produce. And then here came a paragraph that isn't even part of the Complete and Annotated Edition, but was in the original dictation to Helen. Let's see what it is talking about, because it brings up again the authority problem. And he directs it to Helen herself. You, Helen, are constantly arguing about the authorship of this course. This is not humility. It is a real authority problem. So whenever there came the doubt up in her mind, who is really the author of this course, is actually an expression of the authority problem. And you, Bill, he addresses him, really believe that by teaching you are assuming a dominant or father role, and that the father figure will kill you. This is not humility either. Castration fears are a particular distorted reflection of the real basic anxiety or separation fear. So this is quite valuable in the context of looking or discussing the fall or separation, as it was already done at the beginning of these early chapters of this course. The mind can make the belief in separation very real and very fearful. And this belief is the devil. So here we have a very simple, short definition. It is to make the belief in separation very real and very fearful. So this is the belief of what the devil stands for. It is powerful, active, destructive, clearly in opposition to God, because it literally denies his fatherhood. Never underestimate power of this denial. Look at your lives, see what the devil has made, but know that this making will surely dissolve in the light of truth, because its foundation is a lie. So this is what we are learning moment by moment, where the foundation is a lie. A lie is what is still a demonstration that the separation is very real and very fearful. Then that idea of being in opposition to God denies the fatherhood within oneself. And we should not and never underestimate the power of this denial. And this is then what is reflected in the world or believed is going on in the world. The truth is there's nothing going on in this world. It's just a projection of an impossible thought system that has no source, no substance, and has no effect, does nothing. It is simply given to the Holy Spirit so that it shows in our own mind it's the solution. It dissolves in the light of truth. Your creation by God is the only foundation which cannot be shaken because the light is in it. Your starting point is truth, and you must return to this beginning. Much has been perceived since then, but nothing else has happened. Here it is. That is the teaching. Much has been perceived, much has been believed it was going on, but nothing else has happened. Just basically uh, this belief has been experienced and defended or held real. This is why your souls are still in peace, even though your minds are in conflict. You have not yet gone back far enough, and that is why you become so fearful. As you approach the beginning, as we approach the beginning of time, it is in that sense we're going to the beginning of time. You feel the fear of the destruction of your thought systems upon you, as if it were the fear of death. But here's the solution, here's the truth. There is no death, but there is a belief in death. And that's why this Course in Miracles is only working with the belief systems in the human mind. It doesn't, in that sense, try to convince you of the truth. It says, hey, look, here is, if you have a connection with how I put up the denial, here is in your own mind the denial. Here is separation thought still believed to be real. And what you see in the world as being surrounded by death and destruction is just a reflection of that. So there is no such thing as death, but what you see in the world is a reflection of the belief in death. The Bible says that the tree that bears no fruit will be cut off and will wither away. Be glad. The light will shine from the true foundation of life, and your own thought systems will stand corrected. They cannot stand otherwise. So let me see if I can find here. Yes, he mentioned it in a footnote. This is in Matthew chapter 7, verse 19. Every tree that doesn't bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. And John 15 mentions it also. Be glad, the light will shine from the true foundation of life, and your own thought system will stand corrected. They cannot stand otherwise. And now we are finishing up this chapter, so to speak, chapter 3. You who fear salvation is willing death, life and death, light and darkness, knowledge and perception are irreconcilable. Again, you who fear salvation are willing death, life and death, light and darkness, knowledge and perception are irreconcilable. And he talks, of course, about this perception and knowledge also in the clarifications of terms, because it is a new way of that aligning our thinking with the Holy Spirit to be very, very clear that they don't have anything in common. To believe that they can be reconciled is to believe that God and man can not, which that is the definition of sin. It is basically set in stone. It is forever separation. Only the oneness of knowledge is conflictless. Your kingdom is not of this world, because it was given you from beyond this world, from beyond time-space. Only in this world is the idea of an authority problem meaningful. The world is not left by death, but by truth. And that is, listen, world, listen, every human mind. The world is not left by death, but by truth. And truth can be known by all those for whom the kingdom was created and for whom it waits. See, this is, of course, revealed in an instant out of time, in a revelatory moment, in a moment of death of the self-concept. This is known that there's no way to leave time-space, to leave this world by death. It is clearly known there is no such thing as death. But by truth can be known by all those for whom the kingdom was created and for whom it waits. And then it just edited something, a note onto for Helen, which is also in no published edition. You were both wise and devoted. Two words which are literally interchangeable in the sense that they truly bring on the exchange of one another. In claiming your scribal functions and working so late, you had committed, though a serious error, against your brother and one who had asked for your help. A devoted priestess, he called her priestess, a devoted priestess doesn't do this. I do not know exactly what it is referred to, but I'm sure that Helen might have interpreted and talked about it maybe, but it was edited out in any other edition. And from there then chapter 4 of the textbook continues and starts with the sentence that the Bible says you should go with a brother twice as far as he asks. It certainly doesn't suggest that you set him back on his journey. So this is the answer that he wanted here, also with a very personal experience. Teach to the devoted priestess Helen Schackman in that listening to the voice that came into her mind from out of time, from Christ's mind. You should go with a brother twice as far as he asks, the extra mile. It certainly doesn't suggest that you set him back on his journey. Devotion to a brother cannot set you back either. It can only lead to mutual progress. The result of genuine devotion is inspiration, a word which, properly understood, is the opposite of fatigue. And then he goes further on. I let that go for today. Well, I think, chapter 3 anyway, no matter what edition and version we are using, is extraordinary. It really clarifies these belief systems and the connection to reality in perception, or the alignment and opening to revelatory thought, to knowledge itself. Knowledge is knowing thyself, knowing myself, but that knowingness must be in its totality. There's no perception left here, right? There's not one thing that I could name here or give it a meaning here and say, and that is also in heaven, that is also on the other side. There's only creative light on the other side, which is here, right? Wow. Yes, indeed. Thank you, my loves. I'm very grateful. Nothing works here today. I came too late. The wrong camera that didn't work out either. Doesn't matter. It's all good. It's all in the light. There's no category, no meaning here, nothing wrong. It's just all as it is. Blessings. Let's go with a moment of that quietness and forgetting this world and forgetting this course and presenting ourselves with holy empty hands to our Creator. Thank you for being here. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.